Roads to Liberty presents a little something new.
All right, welcome everybody to a very edition of Roads to Liberty. I'm your host, Mike Kniepel here, and I'll be riding this one solo. Ben, Backus, Zach Taylor, everybody else is at work, so I will be taking the reins today. Got a very special guest with us here, LNC member and on the committee convention for the LNC convention down in New Orleans, Daniel Hayes. And pretty busy this week with Mardi Gras and everything. So I do want to just say thanks again, Daniel, for taking a little bit of time out of your schedule and coming to talk to us. Let's just get right into it, I guess. I mean, we had Michael Heiss on last week, and he kind of offered his side. I'd heard you on talking with Karen Ann. I heard you talking with We Are Libertarians and kind of offering your side of things. But I think you kind of had some, maybe some things to rebuttals or some topics that you wanted to talk about. So, what did you think about the Heiss interview? What kind of things did you have to say about that?
Well, so if anybody's watched it, he made very clear what his intent is. His intent is to disrupt. His intent is to try and disrupt this LNC, try and do what he can to advantage himself politically by trying to create situations that would draw more of his people there. Now, look, that's fine. Politics is about getting out your vote and things like that. But there's dishonesty. There's fraud going here. There's things that are being portrayed as not the way they were. And the reality is, Mr. Heiss is not on the convention committee. He has assisted me with some things. It got to a point to where, because of his machinations, if you would, the things he was trying to do, we had supposedly buried the hatchet, because that was one of his whole things when he started, when I became familiar with this gentleman, was he was looking to, try and clear out this entire LNC. And but we started, and I thought we were going to have a working relationship, bury the hatchet. He said, we can get more done together. But I think that was never the case with him. There was always an underlying agenda of what he was trying to do. And at the end of the day, I decided this is not somebody that I want to work with. The fact that he revealed confidential conversations like this should give indication to people that, would they want to work with somebody like that? Because when you're dealing with personalities and speakers and things like that, those conversations should not be released. I mean, you need to be able to talk freely and say what you plan to do and things like that. And this guy he wanted to get his way. Mm-hmm. Not what was best for the party or anything like that. He wanted exactly what he wanted. And things don't work that way. He's not on this committee, this convention oversight committee, and he wanted everything that he wanted. He wanted, I want Judge Napolitano, I want Ron Paul, I want Jim Cantrell. Well, the reality is, putting on an event, he's never even been to a national convention for the Libertarian Party. He doesn't know what it's like. I think you even brought that point up with him, and it's not like Freedom Fest where it's speakers. This convention primarily is about business, the specific business of bylaws, platform, votes, and electing committee members to the LNC. So those are the primary that's the primary focus of this convention. All of these speakers, that's extra. Now, as a member of this committee, I would like to take us from simply being about making sausage, that ugly portion where we're, everybody's fighting over bylaws and platforms and voting and stuff like that, and who's going to be on the committee, to a greater liberty event that's something of interest to the overall liberty movement, something people would want to come to. So so we're not just preaching to the choir. I mean, I'd like to see a time where we have two major tracks going, where we're doing our business for the party, and then there's a whole other track where they've got all those speakers, and it's not just breakouts and lunch sessions and breakfast sessions and things like that. But that's not where we're at. And so I have a very finite number of places that I can put people in the plenary session, without interrupting business, and the sorts of personalities and things, and there's other concerns with that. So there's a whole lot of things that go into the planning of this. But Mr. Heiss initially came to me about wanting to get, first we started talking about Mr. Jim Cantrell. Jim Cantrell was one of the founders of SpaceX, current CEO of Vector Space Systems. So Mr. Heiss was talking to me about trying to set something up, and he's like, hey, can we get this and that for him speaking, blah. I was like, well, that's real complicated. That'd be sort of thing I'd have to take to the rest of the committee, and maybe even have our council look at it, make sure it's legal and all that kind of things like that. So when you're doing all these sorts of, giving somebody a table for this or some kind of, remuneration of any sort, we have FEC concerns, and how we do things, that's something that I'm not it's above my pay grade as far as the legal stuff goes, and I'm going to check with our council. So, but I got on the phone I got Mr. Heiss to get me introduced to Mr. Cantrell. Had a phone conversation about 45 minutes with him. Mr. Cantrell has been a member of the party, interested in getting more involved with the party in multiple ways, and somebody that's got an impressive resume like him. I mean, he's been, he was involved with the French space company, the French Space Agency, when they were basically kind of doing a free market approach to it.
Right.
He was with the planetary societies. This is a guy that's got a lot of background with regards to technology and space and things like that. And he's been a successful CEO in multiple businesses. So he's a very interesting person. Got on the phone with him, no problems. He wants to come speak, and that's it. And so none of the other extra side things. And so we set that up. And that was very simple. But then Mr. Heiss came to me and he said he wanted to try and see about getting in touch with Ron Paul and the judge about speaking at the convention. Initially, I was like, sure, absolutely. Because earlier I'd been having some conversations with Walter Block,
Sure.
world-renowned libertarian theorist that's right here in New Orleans, about doing a debate, and he suggested Ron Paul as one of his opponents. And so I'd been looking at Ron Paul for a while, but the place to put Ron Paul with his party, there's specific places that are right for him, and each speaker, no matter how popular it is with some people, may not be right for that same spot. So initially, I had thought about having Ron Paul in one of the meal speeches. But after speaking to Mr. Cantrell, I booked him in to that final meal speech that I had available. And at that point, I thought, I'd rather focus on the judge because, I had spots open in our gala, and that's in essence a fundraising event. And, Ron Paul's personality is not real energetic at this point. And so, but Judge Napolitano is got a much more, energetic personality, and that felt like the right fit for me. And so I really wanted to focus on the judge, maybe getting him for that sort of a session. And so I said to Mr. Heiss, look, let's not focus on Ron Paul. We had him he issued a video address to the body at the last convention, when we gave him the Hall of Liberty Award, and so let's focus on the judge, and that's what I wanted to do. Mr. Heiss is like that guy. Go ahead. You had a question?
Well, I will say, Daniel, though, but when he did that video presentation, down in Orlando, the room loved it, and you're right. I mean, he's not as charismatic maybe as he was a few years ago, but the thing is his message does still resonate. So I find it a little bit odd,
doing a convention, but let me ask you this. What does that do to enhance because I'm a presenter. I'm putting on an event. How does that enhance my sales? Because that's our business session. We can't require someone to pay for that. So people could show up for that and not pay a penny. So that's
right.
The concern I had from a presenter point. I don't like really talking about that so much because it's like, hey, look, we want people to buy packages and things like that. But that's a reality. We cannot charge floor fees, and since that's on the main floor, that's something that somebody could just walk into and not do anything. So this is a potential big expense that doesn't do anything to actually enhance ticket sales or donations for our tickets. It's technical because of the way FEC stuff works. but this doesn't really increase our revenue that we bring in from this convention directly. So that's one concern that I had in that respect. So a plenary session is not one that I necessarily wanted to have Ron Paul at. Ron Paul has, look, honestly, I mean, we've had people in the past for state parties and other things get on our stage and speak negatively about the LP. That's always a concern. Ron Paul is not done. Okay, people will say he made the Libertarian Party. The Libertarian Party existed before Ron Paul in 1988. Ron Paul ran for our nomination in 1988 and then really didn't have a whole lot to do with it since then. And he's actually at times worked against candidates we have like Rob Sarvis in Virginia. Rob Sarvis was looking to get over 10% in Virginia, and that would have gotten Virginia permanent ballot access, saved a bunch of money, opened up things for candidates, down ticket, and Ron Paul and Rand Paul came in and campaigned for Cusinelli, who was an establishment candidate for the Republicans, and that definitely affected the LP negatively. And then, so, Ron Paul has not been very supportive of the LP directly, since he left. I mean, name one candidate that he's ever endorsed. So here's the thing. Ron Paul certainly can interest people, and he's got people that are interested in him, but I wanted to have him in something that was involved in some sort of package, okay? That someone would have to get and basically opt in to see him by it's always an adventure, always a challenge. Sometimes these things don't go quite the way you expect, kind of like a lot of things. But in any event, we're back. I'm here with Evel Knievel. I'm Daniel Hayes, one of the at-large members of the Libertarian National Committee, talking about the 2018 convention controversy. Sorry, I kind of took over there, Mike.
No, it's fine. It's fine. So, Daniel, I did have a couple of questions here for you. I mean, because first of all, your bio in the 2016, convention booklet here says that, you got involved with the Ron Paul campaign in 2011. So I found it a little bit weird that somebody's going to come to you and say, hey, you should talk to Ron Paul when you had already worked with him. Now, I don't have a dog. I don't kind of have a dog in this race. I'm trying to remain as neutral between you two as possible because, I'm on the convention committee here for Nebraska, so I understand what you go to get people in there. Plus, we've also got Ron Paul coming to this event in Omaha called the Unconvention in May. If you want Ron Paul on stage, you want people to have some skin in the game, kind of pay to see him. You don't want to just give that type of stuff away for free.
Exactly. Right. Exactly.
But this whole thing has kind of played into a larger aspect of what people have been dubbing as like a messaging problem. And I myself have kind of seen as a messaging problem because this really spiraled out of control. I mean, I've heard.
So let's stop there. Why was this a messaging problem? Because somebody that I was having confidential conversations with tried to use this for political gain. That's what that is entirely. Simply saying, you know what? I said multiple times, let's focus on Judge Napolitano. And it even got portrayed as I ban Ron Paul, don't have that power, don't have that authority. Ron Paul is a lifetime member, paid with a gold coin, certainly can show up. He's welcome to show up on his own dime as a delegate from Texas. I think the Texas delegation would be thrilled to have him. So I would encourage him to show up, be an alternate, come hang out at the event. When has he ever come to a national convention since 1988? I don't know if he has. And so he certainly always had that to him. And the reality is, even though there's a screen cap where I say, Ron Paul's out. Well, I've said in other videos, if Ron Paul walked into our convention, we probably give him 5 or 10 minutes on the stage at the least, just if he showed up cold, unexpected. Right. And just because of the, he has brought a lot of people. I got politically involved with the Ron Paul campaign in 2011. And one of my bigger problems, my biggest problem with Ron Paul is the staff around him, because they drive a lot of this drama as well. If you look at the interview that Daniel McAdams did with him, he was fishing for something. He was trying to make something. He makes a suggestion of maybe we need a new third party. That's something that these guys are trying to do. Whatever reason, the people around Ron Paul have a bigger issue with the LP, I think, than he does. But that's getting into a lot of more speculation. But just, having been involved with the Ron Paul campaign, we had big problems with them. We told our grassroots activists, we're going to nominate Ron Paul from the floor of the Republican convention. Mm-hmm. We have to get control of states. We got him what he needed in Louisiana with having caucus wins in 4 out of 6 states. We control 30 some odd delegate seats that we could put who were going to be the delegates in those 32 out of 46, at least 32 out of 46. So we would have been able to nominate him from the floor. We were supposed to put Ron Paul people in those seats. And then this is a whole other story, but we got infiltrated by the GOP guy that basically engineered the 2008 loss when the grassroots was going to sneak attack them. They showed up with a check at the GOP offices in 2008 to pay for all the delegates for Ron Paul. And that's when the GOP said, ooh, something's up. They pushed the date back, and then they basically engineered cheating the grassroots out of winning Louisiana in 2008 for Ron Paul. 2012, the guy that engineered that came to the campaign and said, hey, I've had a change of heart. I want to work with you. He was supposed to be an honorary chairman. By the end, he was the actual chairman, running things, dictating what we were going to do, came to us at one of our Congressional District 1 and 2 meetings and said, we're going to put Romney and Santorum people in those seats. And we're like, no, we're not. And it was a fight, and there's other things that went on. There were threat letters sent to former campaign workers to cease and desist from campaign staff, from somebody that's now in federal prison, indicted for bribery. That's a whole other. It's a really complicated story. So Ron Paul's people around him have used the activists, and I don't have a lot of love for those guys at all. When I saw Ron Paul speaking immediately, I'm like, he doesn't know what's going on fully with this thing. These guys are creating some drama. But that's even outside of what happened, why this spiraled out of control. Mr. Heiss sent that video, or he sent screen caps of that, I should say, all over the place of confidential conversations. Why can I not, as a planner, say, no? This is not, we had some spots, some things change, and you know what? This is not the right thing for this event. Is Ron Paul, can you show me in our bylaws somewhere where it says Ron Paul is guaranteed a spot speaking at the National Convention? It doesn't say that. So why can't you simply say no? But this was somebody, and first of all, I think when we got interrupted, the reality came out to, one, Mr. Heiss did not have the connection that he kind of led me to initially believe that he maybe had with Ron Paul. This was never something ever fleshed out. If you see, there's been screen caps of him saying, well, we don't have the money. We do have the money, up until very recently in January. Well, we got somebody that will donate, but we need to send a lot of messages and let them know we really want them. So it was really confusing. The guy is not... Heiss has not been totally above board. He was pushing an agenda. He wanted what he wanted, and he was willing to stretch the truth as far as he needed to try and get his way. There was never any actual solid proposal for Ron Paul to speak at our convention. And this is being pushed by a guy that's never even been to one of the national conventions, so he doesn't know how it works and what all the sessions are like. So for him to take those screen caps and try and go out there and create a campaign to force us to let Ron Paul speak in the way he wanted, in the way Heiss wanted, how's that even right? It's not. He's not in charge of this convention. And like I said, if they'd have come to us with a proposal and actually, frankly, gotten out of the way, made an introduction, but see, he didn't really know anybody, so he couldn't make an introduction. And, but if he'd just gotten out of the way and let if there was actually something there, let me deal with Ron Paul's agent or whatever. But I thought he, like I said, I thought he had a more personal connection than that. So this was never anything really developed. And for him to go out there and say, oh, Ron Paul's banned from speaking and promote that whole thing, this is about a political agenda to try and force people from using force of the people outside of the Libertarian Party and the greater liberty movement to create a social media campaign to try and get us to do what Heiss wanted.
Well, I will say that you agree with the idea of sharing screenshots. That's never been one thing that I support. But kind of going back to some of the things that you said about working with Ron Paul at the convention in 2012 and some of the backhand.
That's GOP stuff. That's his staffers. That's inside the Republican Party.
Okay, but some of those stories, reminded me of some of the things that I heard and some of the things that I saw down in 2016 in Orlando, to be honest with you, between some of the Gary Johnson people and some of the Austin Peterson people. So, I mean, there's this, backstabbing, and there's some of the stuff that goes on within the Libertarian Party too. We need to try and rise above that, but.
So because certain groups engage in behavior that is unsavory, does that let off the hook somebody else that engaged in unsavory behavior? I don't like working with people that work that way. And, it's just, you watch a body of work, and I get your point, Mike, and I agree that we need to rise above that. But let's stay focused back on to Ron Paul and the staff around him. This guy's not even part of Ron Paul's staff. He's just somebody that is a big Ron Paul fan, and he wants his way, and he tried to throw a public fit to try and get it.
Mm-hmm.
How's that right?
So like I said, I don't agree with the idea of the sharing of the screenshots, but I understand the passion that somebody's going to have that's coming in. I mean, over the last 16 months, we've had a lot of people come in from the Republicans, from the Democrats, people that were independents that said, finally the Libertarian Party is our home, and we want to try and, help the message. That they think the liberty message is going to be the strongest here in the party. So is the message we need to throw people out? I mean, because that's what Mr. Heiss's agenda is he wants to throw people out. Well,
and he's not shy about saying that.
Well, no, and like I said, I'm remaining impartial on this one, because I'm not going to take sides between you and Mr. Heiss. But as far as trying to throw people out of the LNC, I see it as a response.
No. It goes beyond that. His desire is, because he and I had a phone conversation where I said, this kind of stuff where you go and you try, talking about the libertarian socialists, we as a party need to be able to come together and make sure that, hey, these people if they don't represent libertarian values, don't vote them into libertarian offices. When somebody does and says things that doesn't seem to represent what the Libertarian Party should be pushing forward, then at our next opportunity, don't vote them back in. But we had a conversation. This actually went beyond that of members like actually making rules that would exclude certain groups of people from even trying to become members and to participate.
Okay.
And that's not a good idea.
So I'm not one to join really any of the caucuses. I think everything should just be a Libertarian Party caucus, and that's it. But some of his response, and some of the people within the Mises caucus, some of the people within various other groups, would see this approach as being necessary as a grassroots approach, because look, over the last year and a half, had really good opportunity in messengers. And we have had Larry Sharp leaving the LNC, unfortunately. We've had Austin Peterson leaving the party. We've had Glenn Beck. We've had Dave Smith, all these other, radios looking at the Libertarian Party saying, hey, this is your key. What the hell? And we have people like Arvin that are getting, more and more play. So as somebody that's from a bit more of a conservative state like Nebraska is, and we're trying to bring in more libertarians. We're focusing.
Make a video like Laura Ebke did that she's got out there that tells people what libertarians are about and why they'd fit. You don't start a movement to try and throw people out. This should be a big tent. We're not going to win. Are we a debate society, or are we trying to put people in office? Mr. Heiss indicated that maybe he's more interested in a debate society in that interview you did with him. He's not worried about getting people elected to office. If that's the case, you don't need a political party and all of the baggage and strings that come with it. You go out and you just advocate for things and be an activist. If you want to be in a political party, if you want to be in the Libertarian Party, you need to read what the purpose of the party is. And one of those purposes is, well, our purpose is to give voice to the statement of principles, right? But one of the means in which that happens is by electing libertarians, big L libertarians, to office. Now, that is our goal, just simply to get libertarians in office? No, our goal is to get people in office that are going to shrink and reduce government.
Well, and if you're with Heiss on that point, because I said, look, we do have to get it. We can't just be simply worried about, arguing on pure one, kind of get dirty and play the game of politics and get people in there. And you're not going to have 100%, anarcho-capitalist dream of once you get a few people elected. It's going to take some time.
But I got a big question. If these guys that are with them, I mean, they seem to mostly be anarcho-capitalists, right? So while Arvin may have intentionally, I think he probably intentionally did some of his messages in the way he did it, because Arvin is super, super smart, and he knows exactly what he's saying. And, he just did really raw type, extreme examples of the point he was trying to make.
Do you know how many people have come to me or come to people in our party and said, look, we would sign up for the Libertarians, but is this what you're going to have as your message?
That's not the point I'm making, though. If these guys are ANCAPs, Arvin's saying get the government out of it. Arvin's saying get the government out of it. Why are they were trying to make political hay out of that instead of saying, you know what, we agree with what he said, the overall point. And look, and I get that people that are looking into the Libertarian Party, they're not getting that fine point. But instead of them doing that, they were that Mises Caucus bunch and people they're associated with were pushing that for political gain, when actually Arvin I would think that he's basically spreading the message they want, get government out of it. I mean, because that's what ANCAPs believe in, right? Not having government and having market forces determine how it works, i.e., or family and culture or other things like that. So Arvin should be representing, at least from a base principle standpoint, what these guys want. Yet they have never said, well, yeah, we agree with what he says from the principle standpoint, but we just don't like the way he said it. They've done everything they can to try and splash on it. And the other thing is, if this is what this bunch is going to bring as far as positive messaging, hello, I'm sorry, this LNC gets along pretty well, except for the stuff that's going on with Arvin. People that have been around will tell you this committee comes together much more than previous LNCs, and it's moving in a more positive professional direction with the exception of that particular hiccup, which has been a big one. But it's been made worse by these people that say, I'm going to come in and do better. But while in the process of doing better, they're making a bigger mess than anybody else has and shining a light and say, look, I just went in the outhouse. Look, I just took a dump. Hey, right here, when you don't want anybody to see your dump, come on.
Well, so I was down in Kansas City, and I got to talk with you and a bunch of other people at the LNC meeting down there when, one of the gatherings. And look, some of the things I agree with you guys on, some of the things I disagree with you on. Same thing with the Mises Caucus. The topic of messaging and getting quality candidates is important to most of the people in the party. So if they're trying to push back against this whole thing with Arvin, I see that as something that does need to be a bit more addressed, though.
Except, are they the people to do it? Because based on what he did, look at what happened here.
I don't.
This whole thing spiraled out of control. right? You said it's a messaging issue. Where'd the bad messaging come from? It came from a guy that can't keep confidential messages. But anyway, so we don't have dead air here. If you had said this is going to, the messaging spiraled out of control, and like I was already saying, why was this even an issue? This is somebody planning an event and being told no. I understand how women feel when you got that guy that wants to go out with you and he just doesn't understand no. And other people are like, oh, he's so good looking. Why wouldn't you go on? What's wrong with you? Blah, blah, blah. It's like, can't people make decisions and personal choices about how they want to do things? And actually, this is not just up to me. If there's something real controversial, that's something, if I had a real proposal and I disagree with it, I go out of my way and take things to the overall committee. I do have the authority to book the speakers on my own. That's the role that was assigned to me by the committee. But I keep them abreast of what's going on. If I'd have had an actual proposal, I'd have brought it up. The whole thing with Glenn Beck, we get Glenn Beck for free. I talked to the committee. The fact that somebody decided to try and ask everybody that didn't like Glenn Beck, that being Sam Goldstein, who's on the committee, we had an internal discussion. I didn't just say, I booked Glenn Beck in. I'm like, okay, what about this? What about, he's a big name. He's been very supportive of us. And the committee said no. And so I was like, okay, all right. It doesn't mean we can't revisit things. Things change and whatever. I mean, but Beck has given us a good platform by putting Nick Sarwark on there. And if you saw the interview with Nick, Glenn Beck's got a printed copy of our statement of principles and platform in his hand. He's reading some of it. He's like, this is beautiful. He's gushing over it. So that's very complimentary. And, you don't want to just like tell somebody, you're not libertarian enough. You can't come and play. Is that going to grow the party? Do we want to just exclude people outright when they're trying to change? Napoleon Hill wrote in Think and Grow Rich, the person you are 5 years from now is determined by the books you read and the people you associate with. Well, Glenn Beck's been associating with Penn Jillette, so maybe that's had an influence on him. He started to move in a more libertarian direction.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We're going to try this for the third and final time here. We're going to be wrapping this up. Once this actually goes up to podcast, we'll have this edited nice and neat, so you'll be able to hear and see what everyone's been saying and not have these interruptions. I do want to appreciate Daniel for coming and taking some time to talk here. But I did have one question that I did want to ask him. I just wanted to ask you, with everything that had gone into the whole hashtag Themegate with I'm That Libertarian and everything that had been going on with pro-choice on everything, does it make sense, if we were to get Ron Paul, does it make sense to continue to push a divisive narrative about abortion when we're trying to be a big tent party and encourage more candidates?
So this is a question for the delegates. I mean, you're asking, are we going to change our platform plank on abortion?
No, I'm not asking that. I was there for the platform plank debate in 2016. I'm just simply asking, with as divisive and with, as contentious as that was, having another thing about abortion when you've got more people coming into the party, is that smart? From the standpoint of putting on a convention, would it, if we had a special event, however we set it up, certain gold ticket holders, silver ticket holders, whatever it was, that level attends for free, maybe some other ones reduced price, open it up to the public as well and promote it and have, so this was an idea. Walter Block proposed it to me. Mm-hmm. And I realized that, it is a contentious topic. I do lots and lots and lots and lots of outreach with people, gun shows, festivals. And so I generally get asked this question, and the way I typically answer the abortion issue is, look,
the country's $21 trillion in debt. And well, I start off with saying you could have on the abortion if you have two people agree on everything else. 5 minutes later, after talking about abortion, they're ready to go out in the street and have a fist fight.
Right.
So it is a very divisive issue. And I say instead of focusing on that, let's focus on everything we agree on, work towards those things to try and secure liberty for this country and stabilize things. And I get that there's some ANCAPs would love for the federal government to entirely collapse. But, you know, as I said to Glenn Beck before, it doesn't just go back to 1770. He said it doesn't just reset to 1776. I said, no, it could be Mad Max. And so that's the issue. You never know where that happens. We're $21 trillion in debt. If this government collapses, my concern is how many children born and unborn lose their lives at that point? How many women lose their rights to their bodies at that point if society totally collapses as we know it? Could it be better? Sure. But if it happens in a very fast, destructive, violent way, I mean, you don't know. And so it could be very, very, very bad. And that's the concern. So while abortion's an important issue, let's focus on those things. Let's secure liberty and freedom in this country and prosperity, and then come back and address the issue. Now, one of the reasons why I was open to this particular event is it brings up the question of, you know, Walter Block, my friend that's here in New Orleans at Loyola. He holds a position which is known as the evictionist position. Some people say it's science fiction, can happen. It's where basically the fetus is removed from the mother and then, you know, either taken to full gestation or, you know, in an artificial womb or maybe implanted in a surrogate. So the whole point is sure, that's science fiction, but there's actually sheep that have been grown in artificial wombs. So the technology is starting to get here. But Walter's position is whether or not, it brings to the question of, you know, for a woman's right to her body, okay, she's got a right to her body, but does she have a right to termination of the fetus or just simply removal of the fetus? So it's removal of the fetus or termination of life functions. Oh, someone's going to get triggered there. Excuse me, termination of function of the fetus. Right. And so that's the question that's there. And so it's a little wrinkle in that, you know, pro-choice, pro-life debate. And, you know, so there's some distinctions there. And initially you know, when Walter proposed it to me, I said, well, who do the pro-life? And he said, well, what about Ron Paul? I could ask him. And they're very good friends because Walter's written a book or two about him. And so I was like, okay, but I took it to the rest of the committee. I even asked people out in public, and they were like, no debate. The reality is they'd have shown up. So as a event promoter, that would have put a lot of butts in seats, would have sold tickets, special tickets outside the event. And so I asked Ivans O'Brien, I was like, do you know anybody that would be good for the pro-choice side if we did this? And, you know, and then I sent it, and she hadn't answered me back, and I was like, oh my gosh, what am I talking about? You'd be great for it. But actually, Ivans holds what she says is the pro-choice evictionist position. So it's a specific wrinkle, and I don't even want to try and get into to articulate exactly what the difference is there. But she suggested someone like Sharon Presley. This is in a recent conversation. But you know, that three-way abortion debate kind of died on the vine because people just, you know, some people jump up and down, no. But if we had it, they'd show up, especially if Ron Paul was there.
This pro-choice evictionist, why do libertarians continue to like try and, you know, box themselves up into specific terms, man? I don't understand that.
It's an intent to explain things. We're very cerebral, and it's trying to get it down to a very specific explanation in a couple words. But
I just wish people would say, look, I'm libertarian, and everyone would understand what that meant, and you didn't have to go into all these.
Well, but on that particular issue, I mean, you know, which side you're on, and so, and like Walter says, oh, there's three sides, and you know, it's a real interesting question of, you know, and Karen Ann's brought it up on her page before. You know, is it a right to removal or a right to termination of the fetus? Even though they talk about terminating the pregnancy. So I'm that's medical terms. They talk about terminating the pregnancy. I'm not talking about terminating the pregnancy. Well, actually, let's say it like this: is it just a matter of terminating the pregnancy in the woman, or terminating the fetus? So, it's a real fine point distinction there, and
right, and that's something that would definitely be an entire podcast or series of podcasts all on its own.
But if you're trying to get people in seats for a debate, if you have a divisive issue, that's going to do it.
It's going to do it, but from 2012 when there was a bit of an issue with the LNC chair, to 2016 when there was this divisiveness between some Gary Johnson supporters and some people on the Austin Peterson side. I would like to have a national convention where it's not divisiveness, where it's more about, look, here's what's similar. We can focus on the blockchain side of things. I like that what Heiss was talking about as far as like the blockchain and cryptocurrency, though.
So here's the reality with the blockchain. That's something, they're like, why don't you do it? Well, that's got to come from the delegates. The bylaws committee has to put that forward. That's not something that the convention committee can put in place of how the voting goes. I mean, one thing that I'd like to do to streamline things, because we've got people that are not trusting the technology. Blockchain is supposed to be, tamper-proof, and I get that, but a lot of people don't trust it. And so, they like to be able to see who voted for what and count their votes and all that kind of stuff like that. So we do this whole paper thing. What I'd like to see happen, but I don't even know if we can do this within our rules, is have everybody in the delegation fill out their vote, send it down to their chair. The chair tabulates it, and then has either on a computer or a special device that can handheld that they make for these sorts of things for voting at conventions.
Sure.
Enters all the votes in each category, so then that at least saves the time of running up to the front and then having the secretary go through each page and count them. Now we'd still bring the pages up there, but we'd have that real fast, quick, count, and everybody could say, yeah, that's how I vote. That's how we voted. That's what the chair came up with, and see it on the screen. So that'd be one way to do it. But I understand the desire for blockchain. I get it, but there's got to be rules that occur that change that and make it available for the convention. So it's not just simply a matter of, this is a great idea and the LNC votes on it. We don't get to vote on that. We don't get to make that decision. This is something for the delegates. It's a bylaw.
No, and I understand. And speaking of not trusting technology, I'm not going to trust this server for a few more minutes here, but that would definitely help with some of the vote counts. I know that in 2012, I got to work with some of the people up there and work on counting some of the votes for various LNC positions for the first round of stuff with Gary Johnson in 2012. So that was a good experience for me, but it's something that would be made much easier, like you said, with blockchain and with some of that additional technology. But I've taken up a good hour of your time with technical difficulties, with a lot of questions, and
but because of the interruptions, I mean, did we really get the questions answered? Are you sure we answered them?
Do you feel like you answered sufficiently about
it? But I mean, are there any questions you had that you didn't get to ask? And if it goes poof, then you edit it out.
Well, I mean, I just brought up the whole thing with Larry Sharp and with Austin with some of the messaging. I mean, what I was really motivated by in 2016 was the message of Larry Sharp, of Austin Peterson, and the fact that the parties, LNC Larry's not welcome with the LNC. He resigned with that. Austin.
Stop there. Who's not welcome at the LNC? Who said that? Larry did. Mr. Positive Messaging. So let's get into this. Larry's my friend. The first person that actually brought up putting Larry Sharp on the LNC, you're looking at him. That was my idea. Okay. Larry and I'm very supportive of Larry. However, Larry did not get his way. So what's going to happen when he's running for governor of New York? Say he got elected, but are people going to say, well, Larry, this is a real corrupt organization. Are you sure you want to be associated with them, or are you going to quit like you did on the LNC, which isn't even corrupt? You just disagree with one of the decisions they have. He got ticked off. He got his feelings hurt, and he was not the person he tells everybody he is in that particular moment. He didn't live up to his own standard. He could have even if he was going to resign, he could have simply said, "Members, I think it's time for me to resign. Thank you. It's been a pleasure serving with you." And left. That'd have been a big enough story, but no, he had to splash mud back at other people that even voted the same way he did. Mm-hmm. So if you want to talk about messaging, look at Mr. Messaging Larry Sharpe. Larry needs to look in the mirror and ask himself, is this really what I've been telling people how we should act? It's not. And if he says it is, he's lying to himself. Larry did not act the way he should have. Even if he was going to resign, what he said was wrong. And frankly, he not only will he be able to be hit over the head with the Arvin stuff, here's what the party thinks. He's like, well, you know what? We've got some issues there, but just like I intended to do with the governorship in New York and straightening out things in New York, I stayed on the committee with the intent of helping to put forward positive messaging and let people know what the Libertarian Party really stands for, and that it was not that. And that's why I stayed, because things need to be fixed. And if I'm going to fix New York, I need to be able to stay the course and fix things in the Libertarian Party, because obviously I'm going to run into a lot of roadblocks when I'm elected governor of New York. And if I lose a few political fights and I'm unhappy with what's going on, the legislature is doing things that I think are wrong, am I going to resign then? So that's the sort of thing he should have said, you know, and that's the things he's going to get hit over the head with. Now he gets to be hit over the head with being a quitter, not finishing his term. He could have simply 4.5 more months. That's all he had to do. 4.5 more months. Oh, I'm distancing myself. You know what? Cuomo won't hit him directly with it, but who's got all the media up there? Who's got the media in their pockets? You think they're not going to pick this up now and it's become national news? You know, he's worried about the messaging. Well, now by him getting this Reason interview and all this stuff like that and doing that makes bigger headlines. Now it gets picked up potentially by media outlets outside of that. Most people don't give a damn about what Arvin Voris says about 14-year-olds and 25-year-olds outside of this party. It's everybody jumping up and down here that makes the problem. Now, guess what? Larry Sharpe resigned, and then Patrick McKnight resigned, and you know, Patrick resigned and said, I don't like the infighting, but he was kind of engaged in infighting, and he basically kind of he said, I don't like insults, but he insulted the whole National Committee on his way out. Live up to what you say. If you really want this positive messaging, then you got to do it. When you falter like Larry and Patrick did, how can you expect people to live to that standard? And you know, they both quit. They both left. They didn't get their way. They took the ball and went home. Oh, I'm going to focus on my local state. Well, okay, great. Thanks for making it a bigger deal than what it is. If they don't think that's going to hurt them in New York and New Jersey, they're kidding themselves.
Well, I guess we'll just see what happens if he gets more donations, if he gets less donations, if he gets more traction. We'll see how this plays out. But I don't see it as I don't see it as quitting. I don't see it as quitting, though.
If he wants, it sure is quitting. If he wants to distance himself, why don't he send back the $9 or $10 grand that I raised for him here in New Orleans, since he doesn't want to be associated with me and the rest of the committee? I voted no on Arvin for let's get into that whole aspect. I voted no to remove Arvin because I've been involved with significant infighting, and it does not end well.
Right.
It's a problem. Especially with 5 months to go, the convention's coming up. Let it go. But instead, these people that had to have their way, no, we can't have this, we can't have it. I promise you it got more attention than it ever would have. Larry Sharpe resigning, do you think that took the spotlight off of it? No, he got a Reason article about it. And he talks smack with the LNC in it.
It shines more light on what's going on with Arvin. And like I've been telling people before, I said, outside of our echo chamber, a lot of people don't know who Arvin is or even care. But when you have, organizations, when you have Glenn Beck and other people that are picking this story up now and saying, hey, is this what the Libertarian Party stands on? Thanks
to Larry. And people say, oh no, if Arvin would have said it, well, you know what? Larry made a choice as well that made it bigger than what it is. And, you know,
Arvin, but the thing is we should hold Arvin to a higher standard because we voted, well, I didn't vote for him, but we voted to put him into that position. And being in that position, you should be offering a positive form of messaging here. You shouldn't be calling people murderers. You shouldn't be saying our servicemen and women are murderers. You shouldn't be lashing out at teachers. This is ridiculous, though.
I don't disagree that the messaging is bad, but that's what he's done. People don't like it. Vote against him. Arvin, obviously, if you see him in some of these debates, he's really, really good at speaking, much better than I am, and he can control it. But the reality is, oh, look, Arvin can deliver a message and deliver it very, very well. The problem is he's decided to do what he's done. And so that's an indicator that we need to not vote him back in if you don't like that. But taking your ball and going home does not play well. You look at it inside the party, you know it's somebody from the outside. If I'm a New Yorker and I see that, I'm like, oh, he quit. So when he's faced with something bad in New York government, you're going to tell me that the LNC is worse than the current government in New York? It's more corrupt than that?
No,
but he left the LNC. He left the LNC, so you're going to stay in New York, which is full of corruption? But I don't want to be associated with that. He's going to associate him with something much worse.
No, but the thing is it goes back to the song. Sometimes you got to know when to hold him and know when to fold him. And he just simply said, look, being in the part of this organization isn't going to
you know who's not supporting him now? You know who's not supporting him now? Me. I raised a significant portion of the money he's got right now. A decent amount, you know, a 10th, something like that, or a 12th or whatever it is. And so, you know what? You're going to talk to me? Because, I mean, did he call me? Did he pick up the phone and say, hey, Daniel? I called him. He didn't answer the phone. Is that adult? He's not the adult in the room. He left like a little baby. Let's be honest. Larry did not live up to his standard. It's supposed to be about communicating. It's supposed to be about empathy. I left him a message that said, hey, Larry, look, brother, I still love you, you know. And did I get a call back? I did not. Larry is not living up to his standard. Period. End of story. I'm disappointed in him. Very disappointed. He is not doing what he tells people to do.
Okay.
Period. He's not communicating.
Well, it certainly seems like he's trying to communicate from what we've seen on the Facebook post and what we've seen in the live feed.
A freaking phone call. I have not, Mike. He's a baby. He's being a baby. He won't answer the phone. He has not called me. He hasn't called most of the people on the LNC. He left in a fit. And I'm not throwing stones in that house because I've been known to throw a fit.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're so big about communication and being positive, then where is it? It's not there. People are making excuses for him because of the personality. And this is what the problem is with the Ron Paul thing and Larry Sharpe. The cult of personality. People say, put principle over party. Well, how about we put principle over personality? How about we put party over personality? Because when you put all your eggs in that one basket, you're going to always get let down. Always. People are going to let you down all the time because we're imperfect. And I get that. And I still love Larry. He's still my friend, even if I'm not his friend. But I'd like him to live up to the person that he says he is and put forward the sort of things he's done. And he has not reached out to me or most of the LNC. I'm sorry, I'm a donor. I'm a donor. Right. You're gonna get more donations? I'm a donor. I've gotten money. I've gotten other people to donate for them. You don't talk to your donors when you don't get your way? Am I going to support that?
And I will say this: if I've run a campaign, if someone donates money to me, I would still be in communication with them regardless of what was going on. So I'm not going to comment on that part because, much like with some of the things, I wanted to hear your side of the story. If Larry would like to talk about
I'm sorry. I'm a little loud and I get a little excited. And by the way, folks, this ain't yelling. I'm a very passionate, emotional person. And this is something that hits me personally. This is somebody that's supposed to be my friend and that sits out there and talks about how we got to have better communication and then doesn't communicate. and splashes mud all over everybody because he didn't get his way. Larry's better than that. He made a mistake. He could have left. He could have distanced himself without doing it the way he did. If he'd resigned and said, I think I need to focus on my campaign, and left it at that, what could he made of that? But he didn't.
No,
it's about messaging. His messaging was exceptionally poor on this. Exceptionally poor. He left himself open to more attacks. He left the LNC open to more attacks. So is this just about Larry Sharp, or is it about the party? Does he think he hurt the LNC? Because frankly, he showed himself. A lot of people see somebody that quit. And you could say, oh, you don't see it that way, but a lot of people do. And that's one of the problems with Arvin. Some people get his fine point, but a lot of people don't.
Mm-hmm.
Larry could have done this way better. Way better. You know, he's supposed to be the good messenger. He's supposed to be the guy with the charisma. I am, I'm an honest person. I think you maybe can get that from me. It's all out there. It's all open. My emotion comes out. I'm a terrible politician. I'm awful. Larry's supposed to be better at that. He's supposed to be the guy with the good messaging, and he failed.
We'll see. Have to just wait and see on that one, if whether or not that's an actual failure. We'll see what happens with the filing over the next quarter. If his donations go up, if his donations go down.
Well, they very well still could go up, but there's no way to know if they would have gone up even more.
Now, I saw on that Facebook post, there were a lot of people that said that this seemed like a principled approach that he was taking. So I understand why you're
approach. If it's a principled approach, you send in your resignation. Thank you for your service. I need to focus on my campaign. Larry Sharp. That's simple. What do you make of that? Look, you know what? Campaign's picking up. Time to go. I stayed for this. Didn't go my way, but now I need to focus on my campaign. Instead of the passive-aggressive things that he said in his resignation letter and in the Reason article.
I just want to say this. Since he was somebody that served in the military, if you've got somebody that's calling other...
I thought you didn't want to take sides, Mike.
I'm not trying to take sides. I'm just simply trying to point that out. That if you've got somebody that's saying these things about an organization that you've been involved with, like if somebody had said that, all libertarians are murderers, you would take offense to that, wouldn't you?
Sure.
So
do I resign?
What's that?
But do I resign? And do I splash mud all over everybody that even voted with me?
I mean,
who's even said that was a good idea? Nobody else in the LNC thought that I know of that thought that was, the vast majority of the LNC thought that was a horrible messaging on Arvin's part.
Mm-hmm. Well, like I said, we'll have to see. But the way I saw it play out on social media was that there was a lot of positive responses to it. I understand why you're angry, and I would be angry if I had...
So no, the reality is it's extremely disappointed. You ain't seen angry yet. I'm always angry, though, because, frankly, have you looked around? Have you looked around at what's going on? Everybody should be, you know what? Let's get down to it. Everybody should be angry. Have you seen what's going on in government? I'm sorry. Either we're playing patty cakes or everybody should be angry. We don't have enough people that are angry. But we need to quit being angry at each other and focus it outside on those things that need to get changed. And that's not what happens. It always gets directed inward. It's the internal firing squad. And Larry shot at us on the way out. He could have simply resigned and shown himself to be the statesman that he's supposed to be. He did not do that.
Well, I will agree with you. We need to stop the circular firing squad. We need to start looking forward. We need to start, attacking the real problems in government, local, state, national, wherever it may be. So I'm willing, and there's everyone else, in the party, I think, is willing to work towards that goal.
Then you have to stop. You don't, on the way out the door, take shots at people and then go and get in a Reason article and take shots again. And then the other person that's ahead of you does it again. I'm sorry, but you know what? If people want people to live up to that standard, they need to set the example. Mm-hmm. Don't tell me to put my hatchet down when you're still swinging yours. That's one of the things I have to say with Heist. He started the whole thing. I'm looking to defend myself. I mean, look,
Right.
at the end of the day, on that one, this was a decision based on a whole lot of factors that he's taken out over 4 months. Then he puts a few screen caps out, sets a certain narrative out to elicit a response in people that he knew would respond the way they did. And that was intentional. And you know what? Larry just did the same thing.
Well,
and that's where so you want good messaging, then start at home. That both those things, what Heist did and Larry did nothing to help the messaging in this party and make it better. Nothing to create unity. Where's the unity?
I've seen a lot of people supporting what Heist has been saying on, blockchain and some of these other topics. As far as the unity.
So look, wait, but stop. He's not the first person to talk about blockchain. People want blockchain, they need a good proposal. Heck, I've been trying to get a freaking convention app for two conventions now. I mean, it's a basic thing. I know people say no, and people don't get. The Libertarian Party has a $1.7 million budget. This convention is bringing in lots of revenue. Maybe we can do some other things if that continues going forward. But we don't have magic wands. There's got to be concrete proposals. And like with blockchain, that's got to go through the bylaws committee.
No, I agree. I mean, we're sort of like the Mighty Ducks at the beginning of the first movie. I mean, we're underfunded, we're underappreciated. We're trying to do what we can with what we've got. So, look, I know we don't have the same kind of money as the other parties do.
As far as cryptocurrencies go, I mean, what's the first political party to accept Bitcoin? This one. Where's all the money?
That's us.
I think we got about $5,000 in Bitcoin donations last year. Where's all the money? They're busy like, oh, my precious Bitcoins these filthy libertarians they want some of our Bitcoins no, I must hold them, they're gonna go highest. No. It's like, Gollum, and they won't let go of them. What good does it do if you're not gonna put them to use? If the people in the crypto world really want the Libertarian Party to push crypto, give us some donations. Help fund us to make it happen. We gave the vehicle there. The opportunity's been there with Bitcoin. I actually, we're working on accepting other cryptocurrencies. That's been in the works for a few weeks. But yeah. I don't see, show me the money. Where's the money? Well, you've got the ability to donate in Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin was, nudged 20,000. Oh, we're going to hold on to it. It's going higher. Well, now where is it? It hit 6, maybe it's 8 now, 8,000. I mean, people could have donate one Bitcoin. People sitting on hundreds of Bitcoins. They paid $10, $17 for it. Make a donation. Max out to the party, 33,000. Oh, you can do 10,000 a day, I think is the max that you can do. If they did that, I mean, if they had all these Bitcoin millionaires on paper, but part of it is they don't want to cash them in because I think there's tax ramifications, and so that's why they don't do it. But you can't expect us to take crypto if you don't support us. Or actually, we do take crypto. You can't. I mean, I don't know what to do. We had the ability, but they're not giving the money. So if we support the crypto people don't support us. Cryptocurrency people don't support us well. They can certainly do a better job. I mean, if they want to do that, I mean, there's a lot of other things I can't even get to. I'd love, hey, Heist talked about Nexus Earth. They could call and sponsor some stuff. I'd love it. Call us up, sponsor some things with their personal money. We're limited on who we can take money from, but if those guys wanted to make some donations and sponsor things, have, on some of the sponsor stuff, Nexus Earth or whatever, that's a cryptocurrency. That's Jim Cantrell's son, Colin. We'd certainly love to have that. If we had that kind of funds, I mean, having speakers, I mean, my speaker budget was like $3,500.
Right.
We're going to loosen that up a little bit, but I mean, what can you do with that? That's a few plane tickets, Yeah. We had people coming on entirely on their own dime.
Mm-hmm. Well, as far as reaching out to the Bitcoin community, I mean, look, we've got 3 Bitcoin bills coming through our unicameral here. In this session, I don't really get a vote or get out of committee, but that's something that we could be working on at the state level too, to kind of show, hey, look, we support, the Bitcoin, we support the crypto community and stuff like that. But we've covered a lot of topics here, Daniel, and I didn't want to get you all worked up going into Mardi Gras, because I know that it's a busy week for you, but
you have not been in the car with me. I think I was working before I got on the thing. That's a bit anyway. Just like I said, I'm like the Incredible Hulk. Banner tells him in that, he's like, the secret is I'm always angry. Yeah, I mean, it's like it's always there. Everybody should always be angry, because if you're not angry, I mean, we're being abused by the government on a 24/7, 365 basis.
Right. Well, you know what? I like that you came on. I feel like you answered and countered what Heist said. Again, I wasn't trying to take sides on that. Yes, I do have sides on certain issues, when we were talking about some people, but it's not between you and Heist on that. To New Orleans, coming down and voting on some of the stuff there, and just getting to see a bunch of the speakers. And I hope this stuff gets worked out. Just real quick, Judge Napolitano, can you comment on that at all? Is that something that we're closer to at all for the convention, or can you say?
Oh no, it's absolutely out. I mean, so I had dinner with my friend Walter Block, and here, this is something that goes back to the whole thing. I thought Heist had better connections than what he did. I have much better connections to Ron Paul and Napolitano through Walter Block, for one, than he did. And Walter, we had dinner the other night, and Walter said, "Look, Daniel's interested in having you speak, maybe doing a debate with us," and Ron Paul declined. Wrote to the judge. That was a facilitated message, because Ron Paul doesn't want his email shared. I guess you can kind of imagine why. So Walter facilitated that message back and forth with the judge. The judge and I had an email communications back and forth, but the judge is going to be out of the country, so that wasn't there. Okay.
Well, at least that's
though 2020 maybe. I left that open when I asked him, and he said, "Let me know." So we'll see. So maybe we get to Judge Napolitano in Austin in 2020.
Well, I want to throw one thing out here. 2022, what do we do to get the convention in Omaha?
So why do people want to go to Omaha in an off year?
Why would people look, everyone in international conventions and events on an annual basis?
So New Orleans in an off year has already shown that it's going to be well attended. Now, there's a lot of factors in that. We had things ready. People were able to plan early, purchase packages, link room. The link was up for the rooms and things like that. So that was all available early. That's one thing. That's a factor. But no offense to the good folks at Omaha, but they don't have the same tourism that we have here in New Orleans. People want to come here, and I think that's something we need to do. Omaha 2024, maybe. How about that? But off-year conventions, we need to go to destination locations. I'm a firm believer in that. That's what I push with pushing for New Orleans. Not because I live here in New Orleans and I just want it where I live, but because I live here in New Orleans and I realize that when conventions are scheduled here in New Orleans, they routinely break attendance records. And that not just on a small percentage basis. We're talking large percentage basis of conventions that come here break their records. So we need to focus on going to places that people don't just want to go and make sausage. There's a lot of interest during the presidential year to come and attend, but during our midterms, there's less interest. I'm going to sell you on Omaha down in New Orleans. The problem is, if you sell me on Omaha, then Columbus, Ohio, lovely place. Arnold Classic was going on at the same time. Nice hotel, but it just wasn't that well attended. And we've got to pay for these conventions. They're expensive. And so if they're not well attended, I don't know if we had a sumo match between Ron Paul and Gary Johnson or something like that, that might generate a lot of tickets so we could put it up in Omaha. But other than that, I don't think so.
Well, I mean, we're close enough to Colorado where we can get some of that, free, some of that legal weed to come across the border, I suppose.
So why wouldn't you do it in Colorado?
It's cheaper in Nebraska. And it's better.
Okay.
It's much better in Nebraska.
So cheaper. See, here's the thing. People think because you can put it on a convention in an inexpensive manner, that makes it cheaper. But there's potentially greater costs if you don't have the attendance.
Yeah.
So price is not the only factor.
I understand. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about that in New Orleans. Like I said, I'll put something together. I'll sell you guys on it. It's good. It's a good
Okay,
space.
sure. If you say Warren Buffett is gonna max out to the party for that in fully maxed out, because we've never had anybody fully maxed out. You can do 33,900 general donation, but then there's also, which this is complicated, but for presidential years, there's 101,000 some change that can be done, and also to the building fund. We could pay, if somebody pays off the building, that saves $2,900 a month, freed up revenue. So
sure. Well, hey, Daniel, thanks again for coming on, man. I appreciate it.